Hey, yo, it's the Memo Show. On the Memo Show's maiden voyage, Chimes and I talk about creativity in a digital world versus what it was like to have to create in the 90s with the restrictions of analog. Also, we have a few audio treats from those deemed imperfect for this world, but perfect for this podcast. Writers, artists, musicians, and lost souls, welcome to the Memo Show.
Yeah, I mean, how did we come up with this idea? Why did I want to start this? Because I keep thinking about like a goal, because I hear these people talk about being successful with podcasts or music or art or acting, and they're like, oh, well, you have to have a goal. But for me, I don't really have a goal for this. I feel like I just want to make a platform, have, I think it started with me thinking about like my friends and growing up and all the funny shit that we used to do. And like, I want to showcase my friends, and like the people that we work with at the fruit stand, like they're all fucking hilarious, and they're all unique,
extremely talented.
Yeah. So like, I'd like to have them on to talk about what they do, and hopefully someone will get something out of it or hear something they like. But mostly, I wanted it to be kind of like a variety show, because the podcasts that are popular are very not niche, but they're very laser focused on one particular topic. And there's not much variety out there. So I wanted to have like different different aspects, comedy or music or art or fashion or acting, talking about, being an actor in LA,
right.
Movies, TV shows, just have like a variety of things, video games to talk about. And, because I'm interested in a lot of different things, and, people usually are interested in more things than they show on the surface. So,
definitely. And I think the podcast gives people an opportunity to be a little bit more open, you know what I mean? A little bit more vulnerable. And I like what you said earlier, because it's like, I don't really think art has to have a destination. When I first started out in acting, it was like, oh, the end goal was, to be a working actor, to make a lot of money and maybe achieve some sort of fame. But I think as you fall in love more with what it is you're doing as an artist, you start to realize that like sometimes the process is just as rewarding as the end goal, if there is one.
Yeah, that's how it was with me with music. Is like, I never wanted to be a rock star or like popular or like, never wanted the fame or anything like that. When I set out to make music, my goal was just to make music. I like the process. I like plugging shit in. I like fixing the levels. I like setting EQs and compressors, and that beginning is like a story for another time. But my passion was always just making it work, making a beat and then adding a bass line and fucking grooving, and then oh shit, let's write some vocals, and then you play guitar, come over here, lay something down, like it was always a communal kind of thing with me, because I would make music on my own, but I would always try to incorporate as many people that I was around in it as I could. I have tapes and CDs and all types of shit, like files and files and files of music that I've made. And usually in each one of those songs, there's someone else that I've asked to come and
nice.
Help out with.
Nice.
Even if it's just like a background vocal or a guitar solo or something, I love collaborating with people. So I think this is partially, coming from that too. But
that creative space, man, I think it's awesome.
Yeah.
I think too, I anytime someone starts something, the beginning process is always fascinating to me, because it's you don't know what it's gonna eventually morph into. And every popular podcast, sometimes I'll go back and I'll look at the very first ones, and you realize like it's very unpolished and it's rough and it's rugged, and they're trying to figure out what it is, what their voice is, or what, you know, how is this gonna look, what is gonna be my platform, so to say, and you look back on it and you realize like, oh, they really didn't have any idea either, you know. It's through time and through people liking it that you kind of like, oh, this is what the people like. Okay, well, I'm gonna keep catering to that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I mean, and for the goal thing, like, it's funny because, you know, our whole lives we're taught to set goals and achieve goals, and if you want to get something done, you need to have a goal. But like, I don't give a fuck.
right,
I don't care. I just want to do it.
right,
You know, like, I like this. I just like doing this. Like, me and Leo, my son, were playing Fortnite last night, and I'm a completionist, right? I like to do the quests. I like to get all the goals. I like to do all the things, like get all the things that you can get while playing the game. And when he plays, he just plays.
yeah.
He doesn't care. I go, Leo, what's your goal? What quest are you gonna do? He's like,
I'm just enjoying it.
just playing it.
yeah.
And it used to frustrate me, you know. It used to drive me crazy. Like, bro, get some quests done so we can get some more XP, so we can level up and we can do this. And he's just like, I'm just
enjoying it.
just trying to find
Yeah.
the purple gun so I can just, you know. And it kind of, you know, it helps me learn to just like let go a little bit, you know, and remember that childlike sense of, who cares? We're just exploring. We're just playing. There is no goal. It doesn't matter, you know? So.
Yeah. And I don't think we're saying that there shouldn't be any goals in life, right? I think especially, you know, for us males, I think it is important to have a goal. You know what I mean? But I think artistically, if you start to, especially like living in Los Angeles, man, we live in a place where it's like you see extreme amounts of wealth everywhere we go. And sometimes that can be like glorified. And I know for myself, especially being an actor, you can kind of look at that and think like, oh man, I'm not where I should be. You know, now granted, there can be some setbacks, you know, or hiccups, but I think if you start to really, what are the saying that comparison is the thief of joy, you know? I found that definitely to be true with me, that as soon as I start comparing myself to others, then I'm not conscious of my own path.
Yeah, especially when it comes to creatively. Like, the minute you start comparing yourself to other people, the more of a hole you're going to get into. Yeah. And the harder it's going to be to come up with something creatively. This fucking book I'm reading here. This book, bro, when I'm done with this book, you got to read it. It's Rick Rubin's new book.
Yeah, Eddie kept talking about this.
It's so funny too, because Eddie just loves reading.
Yeah.
Right? And when he told me he was reading like Rick Rubin's book, I was like, oh shit, Rick Rubin, you know, like fucking Def Jam founder, like producer of multiple fucking gold, platinum records. Like he started the whole rap rock phenomenon with Aerosmith and Run DMC, and like just like Red Hot Chili Peppers, some of their best records came from Rick Rubin. Like, I can't even begin to like tell you, like, to even list the amount of shit that he had his hands in. He doesn't play any instruments.
Right.
He just
right.
His job, and the reason people hire him is because he can get that out of you.
Yeah, he pulls the best out of them.
Bro, that book is so crazy. Like, he talks about creativeness being like a wave, and you just got to keep catching the waves until something comes of it, you know. Like, you have to be on that right wave at the right time. And you just have to like go with it. He's like, the more you think about it, the harder it's going to be. He just talks about this book isn't even about him making any of those records or stories about being in the studio. It's literally all about being creative.
Wow.
And how to get the creativeness out of you.
Well, I barely opened it up, and it's like the first statement, I guess, if he was by a man named Robert Henry, and it says, the object isn't to make art, it's to be in that wonderful state which makes art inevitable. Like, man, that's powerful.
Yeah.
And it's similar to that that little video I sent you on Instagram where you know
That's
what I mean?
what it
Like
reminded
that
me of.
it has to be inevitable, you know? And I feel like we're living in a society now where we're starting to wake up to that, like art is necessary. You know what I mean? Creative, getting your outlet is necessary. And it's a beautiful thing, man. I was thinking about this writer strike and the acting strike, and I was like, you know, I really feel like, you know, as if you can look at it and think like, oh man, this sucks. You know what I mean? But I really feel like this is going to be a good thing, even for the industry, because I have a lot of friends, even like yourself, who are recording artists, and a lot of these guys, you know, didn't want to sign a record deal because of shady deals and whatnot. And so it was like,
Yeah, because they fuck you over no
right,
matter what.
Yeah. But it was like when the streaming platforms came out, it was like they had the ability to still get their music out, and but not have someone telling them or controlling how they were going to create it, or, you know what I mean, when it needed to be out, or etc. Now there's something to be said for having a machine behind you, and there was more work that had to be done with them. But I feel like with this actors and this writer strike, it could be an opportunity for actors to start waking up the way musicians did, and realize like, oh, we don't have to really cater to Hollywood. You know what I mean? Like we are the artists. You know what I mean? We are the writers. We're the ones that are giving them the content that they're creating. So I think, and I mean, think about it. Now you can shoot a movie on your iPhone, man.
Yeah.
I mean, that's crazy.
It's super nuts. And anybody can make music.
Right.
You just need a laptop, an iPad, and an iPhone. You can do it on your iPhone.
Lupe Fiasco's last album was made, and he literally said he made it on a $20 mic that he bought from Best Buy. The whole album, and using Logic in his living room. And it sounds amazing.
Yeah, and that's just like my life. That's what I've just done. I had my, you know, my little studio in my closet. I had this I rebought this machine right here. This is my 4-track. This is the one I used to use back in the 90s. You put a tape in it, you got 4 tracks, just like the fucking Beatles. Like, that's all they had, were 4 tracks. You had to do what you could with these 4 tracks. You know, and then you would get creative with it because of the limitations. So I would use 4 tracks to do, like, I used to record bands, like my friends' bands and stuff, for like beer and cigarettes. You know, like, hook me up with a 12-pack and some, you know, a couple packs of smokes. I'll come to your band practice and record you guys, get you a demo, right? So, like for drums, right? How the fuck are you supposed to record drums on 4 tracks worth of, 4 tracks? So I would mic all the drums, right? I'd have like 3 or 4 mics. I'd do like an overhead. I'd do the hi-hat and the snare and then the kick drum, right? And the toms would just get picked up, right? Run it all through this like $200 mixing board that I fucking worked all summer to buy. And then you run the mixing board stereo out into there. You record on 2 tracks. You pan the left, the right, and then you do, I'm trying to visualize it here. So you'd have the drums on these 2 tracks. You pan it out left and right. So it would sound like, you know, the drums were spaced out.
Right.
And then you do like bass on the 2nd track. And then you would do, I don't know, maybe the lead guitar, right? But then you'd have to mix it down. So what you would do is you'd plug this guy into a regular tape machine. You'd mix it. It would go out to the regular tape. You'd start a new tape on here. You'd throw that mix back in here on 2 tracks. And then you would do, you know, rhythm guitar, vocals, and then you would do it again. Now there was degradation. How do you say? Degradation to the tape because you would be mixing it down and then putting it back on tape. So you only had so many tries, I guess, before like it would just start sounding like shit.
That's crazy.
You know, so, and that's how the Beatles did it too back in the day, because they would have 4 tracks, reel-to-reel tape, and they would, you know, do the drums. But you know, they had to get creative with it, and they would just add on top of each other with like sitars, and you know the Beatles, right?
Yeah.
But like the limitations of the technology back then forced you to be creative, but like now, like we were talking about, you can do everything on your iPhone now, so there is no limitation anymore. Everything is digital. You can have 99 fucking tracks on your iPhone. Right. You can do with the new Apple M2s, any of the even baseline laptops, you can have infinite amount of tracks. Right? There are no limitations. So the creativity has to come from another place, and I think a lot of the times when I'm watching like reels on Instagram and stuff like that, I like to see the creativeness. It could be the most basic video, but I like to see the creativeness. Like something I noticed today, with just like basic recipe videos, you know, they show you how to make something real quick, right? A lot of people, there's this trend where they're starting with the finished product, and then like they're showing them eat it, and they're like, you know, they do the oh my god, amazing thing, right. And then it goes into like making it, you know, so like
that's kind of cool.
Yeah, so I like seeing how people, even though they don't have limitations, are still being creative with things. But I mean,
well, in perspective, bro. Like just hearing, I don't know anything that you said. You know what I mean? But I'm like, just hearing that process, I'm like, I wonder if today's musicians realize how difficult it was to make.
They don't.
You know what I mean?
That's the thing. And like, I hate talking about it because I sound like an old man.
Hey, but it's all good.
But I think it's the case with everything. You got to know where you come from to know where you're at. Yeah. You know, and that's why I rebought this. I found it on like, you know, one of those used like instrument websites or whatever. It was like $200. That's probably how much it fucking cost back then too. You know, but I needed it because I have all these 4-track tapes that I need to digitize now. So using it and playing with it, I was like, God damn, how did I fucking do this?
Right.
You know, and it's crazy because now I remember when digital started to become a thing. I'm Gen X, right? So I was in the analog world for half my life, and then now I'm in the digital world for half my life. So I remember it clearly. I knew how to use it, and now I know how to use everything digitally. I'm not like the boomers where they grew up all analog, and when the digital age came about, they're like, "Oh fuck this! I don't know how to use an iPhone." You know, it scared them.
Right.
But for me, I jumped right in because I needed it.
Right.
You know, when this stopped serving its purpose, the tape 4-track. Right when it started to really give me limitations, that's when everything started to become digital. They sold a version of this that was digital. So instead of using tapes, you just record on one of those big camera SD cards. Fucking blew my mind. Like, holy shit, I don't have to buy fucking tapes anymore?
Right.
Like, whoa, right? And the fact that when you're in the store and the guy's explaining to you, yeah, you can mix your drums down to 2 tracks and not lose any quality. Wow. You're like, the fuck? Wow. You're like, what?
Yeah.
Because that didn't exist prior to that. And knowing how frustrating that could be, having a perfect drum mix and then having to mix it down, you go into it knowing like, fuck,
I'm going to lose
like
something.
some of the highs and the hi-hat are going to like, suck. You know, like, but now it's digital. It doesn't matter. Yeah. There's no degradation.
That one.
Yeah. And that was just, that opened up a whole bunch of possibilities for me. Me and my friends were like, bro, like, do you understand what we could do with this? We can have 4 guitar tracks if we want. We can add more instruments. We can do this. We can do that. You can have vocals and then you can add 3 more vocals underneath that for harmonies if you want. Like, it opened up our whole world.
So being ignorant and not knowing much about it, do you think that today's artists are taking full advantage of the, you know, the opportunities that technology is providing for them? Like, or are they still? Is it like, hey, you know, you're still making great music, but you're scratching the bottom of the barrel as far as what what technology can allow you to do?
No, because a part of it too is, back when we were using this stuff and we had those limitations, yes, it forced us to be more creative, but it also slowed down the creative process. So like, we're in the middle of recording a band, like we got to stop for 20-30 minutes so I can get this shit done, so I can mix all the drums down and put it on another tape and they're out of the zone. The band's out of the zone, you know, so it slowed down the creative process. When you give someone 99 tracks on an iMac and no limitations, they could just go. Yeah. You know, so I don't think that they're missing anything from it, but I do start to see the younger generation discovering like how we used to do stuff and using that as a part of their creative process now, because I see a lot of people on Instagram who create music digitally, but then they mix it down to a tape, you know, and they go outside and they get all their blank tapes and they, you know, do cool art on them, spray paint them, make them all unique, make their own like inserts, just like we used to do back in the day, but it was recorded a different way.
Right.
You know, I see people using tape machines a lot now to get that warm analog feel. Like they'll use a tape machine just to record the drums,
right,
you know, and then they'll put it in the computer and do what they need to do, which is a great mixture of stuff, because I still do that, you know, like I'll just mic up a guitar, or, you know, get here, look, I'll show you. Like this bin here, this is just like shit I picked up at like thrift stores. Like I'll just find tapes laying around, right? And I'll fucking sample them and put them into the songs I'm making on the computer. Or if there's a cool drum part in there, I haven't
seen one of these in so long,
I'll just fucking you know, just sample them. Because they've got great sound bites. They're not copywritten. They can't be. I mean, this shit was like sold maybe for like 6 months over the TV, and then, you know, there's
went away.
Yeah, it went away. So there's so much cool shit out there on these other formats that I think kids are starting to discover now.
And that's what I like, man, is it's like a blending of creatively. You start to realize that it just because things are improving as far as technologically, and maybe it sounds better and it streamlines the process, there's still something to, you know, the old ways of making music or making a movie. I was very concerned when, you know, the cameras on these devices started getting really good, and now everybody's calling themselves a filmmaker, right? Because there's still something to be said for studying, for really knowing what you're doing. And now I was glad, because it allowed for someone like me, like I was saying, who doesn't have any studio backing or anything like that, to still make a short film or a feature film or something like that. But I felt like what began to happen was we began to focus so much on how the film looked that we forgot that what we're really supposed to be doing is telling a story.
Yeah. Right.
Now, the byproduct of that excellent storytelling was, it was visually appealing or whatever the case may be. But at the end of the day, it was supposed to be like it was a story, right? And a lot of the stuff that I started to see was like, oh man, this is very visually appealing, but I don't care about the characters. I'm not emotionally drawn to anything about this.
Yeah, people are just making shit to make shit. Yeah, and that's the thing too. Like, you can give anybody a computer with infinite amount of tracks, but it's what you do with them that counts. You know, it's what you're making, what's your message, what's your you know, what's your fucking goal, I guess, you know, like we were talking about before. But it's I don't know, I don't remember who said this, but when everything was transitioning, that question came up a lot with, you know, artists who recorded a lot on tape, and when computers started to make music creation available to everybody, the question came up a lot in like you know, guitar magazines and you know, magazines like that. I used to read them a lot. You know, how do you feel about the fact that now anybody could make music, you know, in their bedroom or whatever? And, you know, a lot of the times the artists who would respond to that would say, like, you know, anybody can make music, but, you know, it takes, you know, someone special to be, you know, a musician, an artist, you know, someone, you got to have something to say, you know?
Yeah, and that's still true nowadays.
Yeah, same thing with film too.
Yeah,
like, if you don't have a story, your shit could look beautiful and eye-catching and whatever, but, you know, 8K, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if I'm not drawn to it. And because I think we forget that, like, we're emotional beings, we're emotional creatures, and I love that. And that's not to say that every film has to be a tearjerker or a movie, you know what I mean? Sometimes I just want to go to watch a movie and turn my brain off and just watch something. But I think we're kind of getting back to realizing, like, oh, we need to be telling stories with the amount of remakes that are being thrown out there. And then you start to look at what's happening in our world, and it's like, oh yeah, like, people are starting to realize, like, we got to get back to telling stories again that move people, that provoke thought,
raw emotion. You know?
Yeah,
that's something that I've always tried to achieve with, you know, my music, is it's gotta be raw, man.
Mm-hmm.
It's good. Like, who cares if the take isn't perfect? Like, keep it. You know, like, oh, you fucked up the word. Keep it.
Yeah.
It's real.
Yeah.
You know, like that's what I always loved about that stuff. Yes, there's a level of perfection you want to achieve, so you don't take someone out of it.
Right.
You know, but it's still laying it down as raw as possible was always my main, you know, focus for creating music, especially when I recorded bands. Like, they would, you know, yell cut or whatever, and I'd be like, what was wrong with that? And they're like, I fucked up. I'm like, I couldn't tell.
Right.
Doesn't matter.
Right.
That shit sounded dope.
Yeah.
Like next time I'm not stopping. You know what I mean?
Right.
Don't tell me to cut. But they're like, no, I hit the wrong note. And I'm like, yeah, but it sounded badass. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, I always loved the way that you can capture the feeling of a band being in a room. I think the biggest thing that ever blew my mind was when Pearl Jam came out with Vitology. It was so far from what other bands were putting out. Everything was so polished and overproduced, and that record literally sounded like someone put a mic in the middle of the room while they were just playing, you know, and it wasn't a live album per se, and they probably recorded it all on different tracks, but it sounded like they fucking played it together in a room, in a small basement somewhere, you know, and it was so powerful and raw, and you can hear like the drummer dropped the sticks in the background, and like it was perfect, you know. And I remember listening to it and being like, holy shit, this is so raw. Like, and this was right after I think it was their third album. So they put out like 2 studio albums before that, still had that same kind of feeling and stuff, but that one was just so particularly raw that I was like, whoa, this is crazy that they could just do this, you know? Yeah. And they captured it. And I've always kept that feeling in mind of hearing them be so like, we don't care. These are our songs. Here they are. We're going to play them for you. You know, I always love that feeling you get from records. And there's a lot of records like that, but that one, you know, that one stands out to me. But
that rawness is usually where the passion is too. You know what I mean? When it's raw, it's like that's usually where the passion and the most heartfelt performances come from.
Hey man, you know, a long ass time ago, I went to a dentist and they tried to like convince me to get a tooth pulled. I guess for like insurance shit or something, who the fuck knows. But they told me that I had like a rotting tooth, which I know I don't now because I've been to the dentist like a bunch of times and I asked them and they're like, no, you're fine. You know, I'm a new dentist, you know, not the same guy. But ever since then, I've been like real self-conscious about it. And so I like sometimes in the morning, I'll like think about it after I brush my teeth and I'll worry that I got this rotting tooth and everyone can like smell this rotting tooth but me, and like I'm the only one that doesn't know. So I spent a little bit of time today trying to smell my own tooth. You ever do that? You ever try to manipulate your nose on your face to smell the inside of your mouth? Call me back.
All right. So, like I said before, I want this to be kind of like a variety show. I'm doing air quotes, right? Yeah. So I got my buddy. His name's Rob. I've known him, I don't know, since maybe we were 14. Wow. You do the math. Yeah. I'm not going to say my age right now, but yeah, probably since we were 14. He always wanted to be a writer. He is a writer to me. He's he writes short stories. He writes prose. He writes poems. He used to have like a blog back when blogging was like really cool. Like in the early days of the internet, he had like a blog spot. I think it was called like the typewriter monkey, I think, because like, you know, you give a monkey a typewriter, that whole saying or whatever. And the shit that he wrote used to be so funny and so out there, and like stuff that like you kind of think about, they're like fleeting thoughts, but he just extrapolates on it and just talks about it to a degree where you're like, really, bro? Like, where the fuck are you going with this?
The thought wasn't enough.
The thought wasn't enough. But it, you know, back when we were 14, we would listen to Pearl Jam, right, in his room. It would be messy, clothes fucking everywhere, like typical teenage like pre-teenage, but look, my voice is cracked, just like I'm a preteen. Like clothes everywhere. But he's a big dude.
Yeah.
He was always big. He was always tall. He would tower above everybody. He hit puberty before everybody else, so he had like a beard and a mustache. Back when we were 14, we would be able to buy cigarettes and booze because he looked older. I think he even had gray hair back then. But he had this milk crate. I remember it specifically. He had an unmade bed on the floor, mattress on the floor, and then a milk crate in the middle of the room with a typewriter on it. That's it. And like a stereo. Wow. And like of course like band posters and stuff. But that was it. And he wanted to be a writer like Hemingway and fucking who's that other guy that fucking I don't know. He loved the writers that were always out there. But he sent me a short story that he narrated. Nice. And I'm going to play it. I want to get our reactions while we listen to it because he's insane with this stuff. So, all right, let's see. And now, news, notes, slander, and otherwise with Rob L.
That's going to be take number 4. Starting to become subtly filled with rage at my own inability to fucking read. Might be multiple takes, might be a single take, who the fuck knows. Apparently I have like zero patience. 4th time making the joke, however, A+ for figuring out a really effective way to remind me that I hate the sound of my own voice. So let's make with the razzle dazzle take number 4. Potentially might get split into parts too, just so you know. I'm going to entitle this My Blue Pen in an Existential Crisis Upon Returning to the Office. I'm sitting at my desk. Right. Fuck. All right, I'm going to start over. I just, like I said, cannot read.
All right, so I don't know if you wanted me to cut that beginning part out.
You can't. Remember Pearl Jam, bro.
But it's
the happy accident.
It's so raw.
Right, you got to keep it raw.
All right, let me try to cue this up again. Let's see.
My Blue Pen in an Existential Crisis Upon Returning to the Office. I'm sitting at my desk right now. I'm just staring at this pen. It's a pretty ordinary pen. The ink is blue and I haven't lost the cap yet, and it says BIC on it in big black letters. So I'm just staring at this pen, right, and I'm thinking. I'm just sitting and thinking and staring at this pen. I thought for a second that someone was going to come into my office, so I stared out the door vacantly for a second or two, and then the voice moved off down the hall, and I went back to just staring at this pen. Just sitting and staring and thinking and staring at this pen, not thinking of anything specific. I think the thought, man, a slice of pizza would hit the spot right now. But I don't want to order a whole pizza. I don't know any place that will deliver just a single slice of pizza. Maybe if I did know a place that delivered a single slice of pizza, I could pay for it with my debit card, then use this pen to sign the receipt for the delivery driver. Would he appreciate this pen as much as I? Do you tip less for a single slice of pizza than you would for a whole large pie? Or is the tip really more about the journey the delivery driver took to get there? I bet he's seen some crazy things in his travels. What if I signed the receipt and the ink in the pen was red instead of blue, as I believed it to be? Would the delivery driver think that I was being antagonistic with my use of red instead of blue in this pen? This is an incredibly silly thought, though, because the ink in this pen is blue, not red, and I don't even think I have a red pen anyway. Blue and black, that is the only color of ink I have in this office, but I'm fairly certain that I have a yellow crayon that rolled under my desk recently. Is the yellow crayon that rolled under my desk like Schrodinger's cat? Does it really only exist if only I know it's there, and even I'm not completely certain that it is? There was some kid in the office the other day crawling around on the floor and picking things up and putting them in their mouth. Is it possible that they ate Schrodinger's crayon? I should pick up the pen now and count things and use the pen to write down the totals of how many individual items I have of each item. But this would require me doing something besides sitting and staring at the pen, staring at my lovely blue pen. I begin to wonder if anyone has ever owned just one pen. Is it possible to have just one pen? Not one pen at a single time, but one pen for the life of that pen. You open up a new box of blue pen that says BIC on the side in big black letters, and you put it in your pocket, and that is your pen till either it runs out of ink or you die. There can be a funeral either way. I'd be incredibly skeptical of anyone who claims to have done so. Staring at my pen, I read the word BIC again. And remember that BIC makes lighters as well. I wonder about my pen and a lighter and the ability to burn evidence that's been written down. If Bic also made paper along with Bic lighters and Bic pens, they could theoretically have a monopoly on the life cycle of the creation and destruction of written evidence. But the more I think about it while I stare at my pen, the more I become sure that Bic are only players in the plastics game, and they leave the paper game to someone else entirely. The whiteout people seem to make sense for this. I just exhaled deeply and let out a noise that sounded like a sigh. And when the wind from my breath hit the pen, it rolled across the table a little bit. This is an incredibly exciting development. Breaking news. Has the pen become sentient? And was this its polite way of informing me that I need a breath mint? Pen, if you're out there, have you written me a letter yet? I prefer S. My least favorite letter is V, followed quickly by W. I dislike them because I can never remember which comes first when trying to do anything using the categorizing method of alphabetization. Then I have to sing the whole alphabet song to myself to remember. This becomes incredibly awkward when I don't realize I've begun to sing aloud and start asking strangers to next time sing along with me. Few to ever take me up on the offer. I feel it's because they're jealous of my pen. But I'd be jealous of this pen because it is a good pen. If I use this pen to write a letter directly to the pen, it would be inanimate object narcissism. As much as I like this pen, I'm beginning to wonder what it would be like to poke myself in the eye with it. I feel like it would do irreparable damage to my relationship with the pen, and I would never stare at it the same way again. But now that thought is there, I can't seem to shake it. What if I just picked it up and poked myself in the eye? Not hard enough to feel it. Enough to get the time to pass quicker, just a jab to my eye, quick, painless. I make that sigh noise again, the pen rolls away a little bit further. Is the pen on to me? Does it know that I have devious plans involving both it and my eye? I try to inhale forcefully to see if it's possible to get the pen to roll backwards towards me. It does not budge. My right hand has begun to creep and crawl across my desk towards the pen. I feel that sneaking up is the best course of action for this grabbing of the pen and sticking the eye business. It's like ripping off a Band-Aid. It's just a quick, dirty, just a jab to the eye. My hand is closer now, maybe an inch away. I seize the big pen in my grasp, triumphantly towards my eye. Fuck, I broke my glasses!
Thank you, Rob. That was a crazy story. We want more. Hey, everybody, don't go anywhere. I'm going to leave you with a little segment from my man Cal, whose music taste is pretty wild, and wanted to let you in on his process when he works with artists in the studio. He also suggests a cool song from an artist for y'all to listen to. Stick around. But before that, I just wanted to say thanks for listening to the first episode of The Memo Show. I hope you enjoyed it. And a special thanks to all those who contributed. Here's Cal with the Music Minute. I just made that up.
Hi, my name's Cal. I'm a songwriter-producer, and recently one of my friends asked me if there were any artists or reference tracks that keep on coming up in studio sessions. So just a little bit of background. Several times a week, I'm in the studio with an artist, and they'll bring in a reference track. And a reference track is a song that's already out in the world, but it's a song that inspires them, or they like a certain part of it. And I think reference tracks are really important because it kind of gets everybody on the same page or looking at the same goal. And when creative people are working together with one goal in mind, the best results can come out of that. So what I'm going to talk about over the next couple minutes are some of the songs that keep on getting brought up in studio sessions and what I'm hearing and what's inspiring to me in each one of these tracks. One of the songs that gets brought up regularly, like almost once a week, is an artist named Brink, and the song is CBD. It's off the album Hypochondriac. And it's hard to describe this because it's hyper pop, but when I start describing it, it's going to sound like I'm describing emo. It's like emo lyrics. It's got like guitar tapping. It's got like Midwest, like open tunings. So like there's all these tappings and hammer-ons. It's like anti-pop. It's got all these like weird saturation and distortion and messed up stuff. So it sounds like they're pushing the boundaries of what music has been. It's just they're using technology to do it instead of guitars and amps. They're using tech to glitch and distort and make weird little vocal chops and make little sexual noises that happen in dropouts. And there's like Foley of like clocks ticking. It's so hard to understand what's happening. I think so much is getting thrown at you that you just kind of sit back and listen to it unfold. Like it's just is what it is. And the song ends and seamlessly transitions into the next song. So every time I listen to this song, I don't realize that I'm like 50 seconds into the next song because it's so seamless. I'm like, oh, I'm into the next song. I don't know. There's something about how like this song couldn't be made on an analog recording desk in a big studio in the 60s or 70s. Like it had to be made on a laptop in a bedroom. Like technology allows for like endless creativity, and it's such an exciting time to be in any creative field. But you just have to be able to push past that like decision paralysis because there is limitless options. And this song has so many of those options just thrown in there, but not like haphazardly. It feels very intentional. And it's super exciting because artists will come in and they'll point out specific things in this song. Be like, I really like the guitar on this part, or I really like the flies buzzing in the background during that quiet moment when almost all the other music drops out. Or I like how the saturation is just so over the top, like it messes up my speakers. There's so many different parts of this song that gets referenced quite frequently. This had to be like the first song, and it's just weird enough that you have to like at least check it out once. So I'll link the album in the show notes so you can check out CBD, Buggin', check out Deepfake. Just take a listen. I find it really inspiring that a younger generation is still trying to push boundaries and create something that's new and exciting. To me, it's a very unique, inspiring song. I'd love for you to check it out. Cheers.